What's up, fam? Coach Jason Leon is here with another episode of the Positive Perspectives Podcast. This week, my good friend Caleb Green has joined us. Caleb is a multi-hyphenate, using his talents for over 20 years as a premier vocalist with Stanley Cup Champions, the Washington Capitals, and the Washington Nationals. He is also a fellow member of Voices of Service and was a finalist on America's Got Talent. He has garnered much success as a military retiree, a serial entrepreneur, and notably a husband and father. Today, in part one of our series on the role of dads, we'll provide some insight into faith and fatherhood. We have some great insights, so if you're a dad, aspire to be one, or just curious about what we're going to talk about, this show is just for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Positive Perspectives Podcast. My name is Coach Jason Leon, and I am joined today by Caleb Green. You may know him as one of two national anthem singers for the Washington Capitals and a mentor to me, but he's also one of my boys in our group, the Voices of Service, America's Got Talent finalists. Yay!
What's up, brother?
What's up, my brother? Hey, please take a moment to tell the folks a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. Okay, so good morning or good afternoon and good day to any and everyone who may be listening. My name is Caleb Green. I am an Army veteran. I've served 30 years and some change in the United States Army. I am one of the gentlemen who, when I retired, I never looked back. I enjoyed the opportunity to actually be free and to do the things in life that I want to do and set a path that I want to set, because I retired so young that I had plenty of time to do it.
So I'm talking about. Caleb, you're from the Tidewater area. Is that correct?
I am originally from Hampton, Virginia.
All right.
The 804, before it became the 757. A lot of people talk about, I'm from the 757. Nah, man, I'm from the 804. Okay. I don't know where 804 is now, but I know where it was. Old school.
That's all right. That's all right. And I did forget to mention that you were not that you were, but you are an Army veteran. And the career path that you took in the Army, I just want to give a little background information. You first started off as commo, is that correct?
That is correct. I was a communication specialist. Radio teletype, actually, back in the day, that was huge, post-Cold War type stuff. And then we came into the satellite. So, when satellites started to go up, and that means communication, I was a specialist at that. And then there's a myriad of other responsibilities that kind of go under the communications umbrella. So, laid a lot of wire, climbed a lot of trees, buried a lot of wire, retrieved a lot of wire, push to talk communications, just, every spectrum. Long before Bluetooth, man, I feel like the Fred Flintstone of communications because I did it all before it got easy.
Yeah, we share that background in that way. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then you rounded out your career doing something that was totally different from communication. Well, maybe it's a form of communication, but tell the folks about that.
Well, it is a form of communications. You're right. I rounded out my career as a vocalist in a special band, the United States Army Band, which is the premier band of, or the senior premier band of the armed services in the U.S. Army. And I was a vocalist with the U.S. Army Chorale, which then transitioned to the United States Army Band downrange. So I went from like a quote unquote show choir type group to a popular music ensemble. And what's interesting is that's what I went to college for. I went to college to be a musician, but being the obedient child that I was, my mother and father were like, you really need to get another profession, something that's going to give you the opportunity to make a living. Lo and behold, when you obey, it's better than the sacrifice. Yeah. But, I obey my parents. But I was right. Really, I was at my last rope, and then I got the privilege to be able to audition to come here to DC. And another thing about that particular job wasn't open for 20 years. So, people you don't get to audition this year. And if you miss it, then you can audition next year. You can only audition when there's an opening, and you're highly scrutinized, and you have to be able to meet all of the requirements of which I had been out of for, a decade and a half. So very blessed to, have had the God-given skills and the honed talent and really my musical foundation from Hampton University so that I could, launch much later than I wanted to, but, still able to make it happen. So, and I think had I not had that path, I would have never met you or any of our, bandmates and Voices of Service.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And little factoid. I auditioned for the Army Material Command over at Aberdeen Proving Grounds.
Yeah.
Back in the day. It wasn't the 1900s. It was in the 2000s. It wasn't. This is showing our age, right? But I had auditioned and I actually got the gig, but I made a career decision, and this is part of what we're going to talk about today. I made a career decision based upon my family situation at the time. I knew that I would be traveling and I would have responsibilities to the band to make sure that I was, fulfilling my responsibility as a lead vocalist. So I did not take the gig, even though they offered it to me. I did not take the gig, and I ended up at Walter Reed Army Hospital. But again, a fatherhood decision. I had situation with my daughter going on, and I needed to make a good family decision. And so I transitioned to our discussion for today. We're going to be talking about fatherhood. Fatherhood is always in season, right? It's always something that we need to talk about. And especially with the culture of today, sometimes certain roles, gender roles specifically, can get swept under the rug, and we have to at least be able to say and embrace the titles and the positions that we've been given. And Caleb and I, we're fathers of multiples.
Yes, we are, my friend. I'm going to say we're obedient.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fruitful and multiplication was all a part of our calling. So I have seven children, one in heaven, so 6 living. And Caleb, you have 7 children as well.
I do.
Yeah. And yeah. So how does talk to me about fatherhood? Specifically, I know this because we've been friends for a very long time, and I know that you are a man of faith. And I wanted to ask you, how does your faith play into your fatherhood?
Oh man, that's the foundation. Faith, if you know, based on wisdom and experience, the path of life, you and I both can relate to this. I'll give you an example. If I were to give you a set of headphones like what you're wearing right now, right? And the majority of the time, you're going to take a look at the plug, you're going to take a look at the input, and you're going to plug it in, and you're going to just start going. Because it's headphones, that's what they do, right?
That's right.
Are you going to read the instructions? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to read the instructions. And it's going to be the thing that you needed to do that it won't do. It's going to present you a challenge. You're going to have to troubleshoot it. And the troubleshooting guide is actually laid out for you. But what we end up doing is beating them and, trying to shake it and twist the knob and reconnect and the whole 9 yards. Troubleshooting guide may say, press this button, hold it for X seconds, and then it'll reset the system or to make it recognize. And what we do is we always take shortcuts because honestly, microwave. Everything is about microwave. Want to do it fast, want to do it now, want to do it yesterday, should have been done, could have been done. And very seldom do we take the opportunity to read the instructions so that we know that we know that we know. So any situation that you're in, those instructions will always be. Can you learn by experience? Of course you can. Absolutely. Will you learn by experience? Not everyone does.
That's true.
So my faith is based on that. If I don't get the basic instructions about how to do the things that I do, or the foundational principles of how to lead a family, how to lead young men, in a walk and in a life that's obedient, to Christ, which is the foundation of my faith. And as much as I know, and as much as I've studied it, and you still feel like a failure sometimes, but I can guarantee you this: the investment and the promises that come with what God has said, I have seen over the course of time. And so there's just no turning back from that. And the things that have happened to me and for me have been a direct result of obedience or walking in a path that allowed me to be where God wanted me to be, or where I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Have I failed? So much, but I don't know anyone who's gotten it perfect either.
Right. Yeah, that's telling, especially me being a dad of folks that are adults now. I have most of my children are adults, and I'm a grandfather. And interestingly, I struggled as I was preparing for this talk. I was struggling with how much do you reveal to people, because I believe in being transparent, not naked, but transparent. Because in this day and age, everything is online, and folks are very naked. Maybe I think that transparency is good. Nakedness, I'm not too fond of, but I think being transparent will endear you to your audience, especially the folks that need to see realness, right? So I was thinking about the fact that I said, do I reveal that I'm old, older? like I have 3 grandchildren, and they're like, one of them is almost 8 years old. So I've been a granddad for 8 years at least. So I thought about that, and also too this age thing. I don't know what it is about it, but I think I'm learning to embrace the fact that I'm older, and learning that there's a wisdom that comes with that, and there's experience, and there's things that you can seeds that you can plant to the younger generation, because things, and it adds quality to the things that you bring to the table. So
Sure.
I'm starting to embrace that now. So I'm like, so I don't mind being old now.
I'm going to challenge you, because you say old,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say I always like to use words of higher acumen. You're actually a very wise person, because the difference between transparency and nakedness, I think transparency does endear, and I think that nakedness is a money grab. Like, to me, I've only seen people like to tell all. Like, there's something in it, like I'm going to go out or to take somebody down. I think your transparency, you're only really worried about yourself. You're not trying to add anybody else to the equation or take anybody else out from the equation, because this is about you.
Right.
Nakedness means that you just got your guns blazing. I mean, we could all do it. I feel like I do it sometimes unintentionally, but I'm a very passionate person. Right. Some people say angry. It's like, no, I'm not angry. Is it? I'm not putting up with your mess. I think that you're in a place that a lot of people wish they could get to, but they want to get there all of a sudden. You've just been on that journey already, and that's where you are. You've been blessed to see another generation in your family line. There are people who haven't seen that yet. They want what they want, but there's something in your walk that's a little bit different than theirs, and it's not something that you decided. It's what God has allowed and God has decided. That's why everything comes back to the foundation of faith. You don't even have a breath without him. So look at your blessings. Look at what he called it, as opposed to what people say it is.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good perspective on it. And it helps, because you have so many voices in the culture that are, no, you want to be young forever, and you want to be this, and you don't want to tell folks that you're old, because then they'll start tuning you out. And I'm like,
nah, man, you are probably one of the most vibrant people I have in my life. And I mean that wholeheartedly and true. The vibrancy that you bring in your approach. You'll ask a question knowing good and well that somebody is quadruple double down on their perspective, and you said, but what about, and what if, and not trying to be funny, but that's like almost like childlike faith. I have faith enough to believe that it's possible that even though everything looks the way it looks, there could be a different outcome. Oh man.
Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, it's true, and I firmly believe that.
Do you know how many people you say from getting choked up? Like,
I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to say it like this. I firmly, to be totally honest and on the table, I firmly believe that that change is always possible. It's always possible, especially when you put God in the equation. I'm like, it's always possible. The hardest rock, the staunchest advocate for something that's totally in the opposite direction of what you believe they should believe in or whatever. I believe that change is possible. I think it's just a matter of just offering a different way to see it. And then maybe folks are like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. But that's what I always hope for that.
You honestly personify that, though. It's not like a fake thing with you. And I know it's taken work. So now it's natural. It's just like, yeah, I think it's possible,
Yeah.
that there's another way or another perspective or a brighter side
Yeah.
or, people, it is what it is. Sometimes I'm like that, it is what it is, but
Yeah.
sometimes it isn't what it
Yeah.
appears. And you
Right.
bring that. So that's very helpful, to the people who are in your circle who sometimes just need a ray of sunshine, in a very dark room. So
Yeah. And I try to be that way. We talk about this all the time, Caleb, about I call it the unicorns and rainbows mentality. I don't have that. I don't think unicorns and rainbows. I do think reality, but I also think possibility too. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. I'm at that juncture between reality and possibility. It's like this is the reality of the situation right now, but right now it's not forever. So things can
that's
change.
exactly right.
So,
But
but
you've basically sought what could be good. You're always looking to extract that value. And I feel like I'm the same way with some
oh yeah,
respect. There are
for
things
sure.
that people say are impossible, and I'm like, oh no, it's very possible.
Yeah.
What has to change to make it possible is the
Mm,
thing that we kind of need to, I have a ton of cliches and things that I say.
yeah.
But if I don't believe them, then I won't say them.
Right. Right. And that's the transparency piece is believing it, actually believing what you're putting out there, not just doing it for shock value or clout chasing or whatever, but
Yeah.
actually believing what you say. Game recognizes game, as they say.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
many people do you know that say that they want something in particular, and you and I being the wiser, more
Mm,
mature, more experienced, and some people
mm,
say older,
mm,
but wise, mature, experienced, sage counsel folks say that's not what you want. And they
mm,
look at it and they
mm.
go, oh, you're trying to keep me from something that I should have. It's like, I've lived a little longer than you, and I can tell you that's not what you want. And here's why. Pretty and shiny sometimes is worthless.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
you can have something that you got to work on just a little bit, and it's worth more than everything that you've ever had. And that's
Right.
what this society fails to understand. So that's why the council is kind of the same way. You got I think I sent you something the other day. There was a saying, it was yesterday. It's a saying from a friend of ours. I'm not going to say who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we have facts. Everything that's said is factual, but it's not truthful.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's
Right.
our perspective when we tell people things or we try to share with them, or they want to learn on their own. If you learn on your own, it's one thing, but if you
Right.
learn at my expense, I have a problem with that.
That's different. That is a different thing. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
because that to me, at that point, you become a nefarious player to me.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep it up here for you.
And keep it way up there.
Dr. Hannah.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That's interesting, man. Yeah, and I think that's true in a lot of cases. In thinking about using all of that wisdom, especially as it pertains to our children. I will say this. I know this sounds like a really funny thing to say, but sometimes our kids can be rockheads. You
Mhm,
know, that's
mhm.
probably not the most psychological thing to say, but sometimes it can be rockheads. But I often also remember that so was I. Once I was that walking down that path of being a rockhead as well. Folks that were wiser than me saying, "Do this, not that." And I did that, not this. And now we're seeing it in our children, and we're trying to correct their walk and put them in a better space. And what do you have to say about that?
Because I was gonna challenge you on that as well. Not
Uh,
challenge you personally, but
mhm,
another
mhm.
perspective on it.
Yeah.
People that tell you what to do usually don't win
Mm,
in between your ears. People who show you what to do, you ride with them all day long.
yeah.
And with your children and with your kids, you've been a father. Like when you're in deployment, you just can't be there.
Yeah.
That 24 hours lost, that becomes 72 hours lost, that becomes 722 hours lost, that becomes 7,200 hours lost because you're not there, because you can't be.
Yeah.
That is an investment that we didn't have the privilege of being there for those formative moments. But I don't back down from so if you have electricity in your house,
Mhm.
right? Even if they cut your power off, and you cut the lights on, and the lights don't come on, people are like, oh, the lights are off. That doesn't stop electricity from being present.
Right.
It just stops your access. If you don't have access to the power, then you cannot illuminate your home.
Right.
With our children, when we don't have access to them in between their ears, in what they see, what's in their heart,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot affect the change that we're talking about. So being a father, to boys and girls, both, being present, I never, I mean, it is hard work. What I've always said to you, don't send them, take them.
I love
Don't
that.
tell them, show them.
Yes.
Walk with them. And so basically, I don't like to do a lot of work. So if you're close to me and Dad says do something and you don't, you might get touched. I don't want to have to work that hard.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're right there.
Yeah.
But and when I say that, and it's not abusive, it's like, hey, listen, my counsel is the most valuable thing you're ever going to receive. My love is the most valuable thing that you're ever going to be able to duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing you how to be a loving father, a loving husband, a good boyfriend, a good friend. I show you that.
Right.
The things that we do as a family. When my wife is out ministering to families or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't just her name that's out there, it's my name that's out there. If I'm out in the streets doing what I do as a man, as a human, and the whole night, I'm carrying all of these folks that are dependent on me. Yeah. I try to set them up for success. I open paths and I make it quote unquote easy for them, or at least give them the access so that they can have a path similar to mine. But it's very, very difficult to do that for somebody who basically takes things that are very valuable and kind of smash them and trample on them. See, now you don't get that access anymore, and you get the same love, but I can't treat you with the same privileges as the person who actually walks the way that they need to walk in order to enjoy the privilege.
Right.
So here I am, me and you talking. Am I using profanity on your podcast? Nobody want to hear that.
Right.
I wouldn't say it anyway. I wouldn't do that anyway. But there are people who actually do that. This is not what's going to attract people to your podcast. Your podcast is totally different. And you don't want to be known for that. You don't want to be known for a person or for a platform that has I'll give you like Shannon Sharp. I think it's good. I understand that's a totally different level, much higher than what we're talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir.
Foundationally speaking, there are some things that they do, the principles that work, because he has a team around him and they can do their edits or whatever the case may be. And he lets people say what they need to say.
Right.
But in general, you can't have that kind of conversation in public. You just can't. It doesn't, that's just not the way you talk to people. You have to talk to people at a much cooler temperature, because all of that igniting up against each other, rocks, sparks. Once you do that, you're going to set a fire and you're going to burn the house down.
Right.
Why?
Right.
We try to temper all of that, or at least I do. Man, I'm sorry. I was reading the news real quick. Justin Timberlake.
Oh,
why?
What happened?
Why? I'm like, how? You got people that can drive for you.
Oh my God.
That's not. So you know what? You're talking about responsibility and accountability. Everybody I know could have be spotlighted for something.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many resources that are available to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you decide to take it into your own hands, because I can do this, then you get this isn't a one-time thing.
Yeah. It's just a matter of getting caught.
Yeah. It's going to be that indelible mark that is going to mar things, because there's always going to be that person. Yeah, but he's a this or he's a that. You can't preach to me because you did this. And it's like, man.
Yeah. And how you do one thing, I think we've always talked about how you do one thing is how you do everything. Yeah. And people think it sounds so harsh, but it actually is true, because if you have habits of success or habits of thinking critically, then that's how you do everything. But if you have habits of letting things slide, I'm gonna let that go off to the side. And we all have done things like that. But if
Sure.
that becomes your habit, then eventually it will catch up to you. And I'm not saying that to judge
No,
anybody. I'm just
you
saying,
are
but that's
right.
just consequence. That's just natural consequence, right?
You are right.
Yeah.
You are right. You know what, man? We were talking about a little while ago. So for me,
Mhm.
it's like this. Everybody wants that moniker. There are
Mhm.
people in music who would say they want to do what we've done on AGT. Then there are people who in sports who say they want to be a champion. There are
Right.
people in whatever walk of life, they always have that next level that they want to aspire to.
Right.
Do you know how many sleepless nights? Do you know how many sacrifices? Do you know how many repetitions? Do you know how many of just just self-disciplines you have to employ just to be on the stage to be able to compete? That doesn't
Mm.
include competing. I'm just talking about the necessary acumen, the necessary disciplines,
Mhm.
the foundation that needs to be there in order to compete. People don't understand that.
Right.
Sunday morning singing. How many people go, oh, I can sing? And you put on the microphone, you be like, not exactly. And it's not to be mean.
Mhm.
The public consumption, God does know your heart. And I believe that everybody has a song, but not everybody was meant to hold a microphone and present it.
It. I know you meant that as a serious comment, but it's funny.
Yes.
It's like make a joyful noise, but not in a microphone.
Yeah. Oh, ye lands. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Ah, that was
truth be
funny to me,
told,
brother.
truth be told.
Sing it in the shower and make that noise. That's hilarious, man. That's funny.
I mean, trying to just
Yeah.
keep it real, but
Yeah.
even in a competitive level, so we'll take it out of music, whatever it is. I'm
Yep.
the kind of guy, when I was in the military,
Mhm.
I went, my first unit, the first unit that I ever went to was a real world mission.
Mhm.
So you make mistakes in training. You don't make mistakes on the mission. We couldn't afford mistakes.
Right.
And so what did we do more than anything? We trained.
We trained.
Dude, we trained so much. I was like, if I see this one more time, I'm gonna just puke.
Yep.
It was necessary.
Mhm.
It was necessary.
Yep.
You're able to detect from afar off those who are not ready. You're able to ascertain that somebody doesn't need this as much as they may need something else because you have a trained eye. You
Mhm.
only get a trained eye from training. You only
Word.
get experience through going through something.
Word.
You can't get it because you read it. You can become familiar with it, but you do not know that you know that you know until you go through the fire.
Yep.
Having gone through the fire, this is what qualifies me to be able to counsel and to be a father and to tell my kids this is the path.
Right.
To tell them and to show them and to call them out on it if necessary. Even when you play professional sports, if there is an infraction, the ref will blow the whistle.
Right.
Why you stop and play? Oh, you let him get away just a few seconds ago, but you're mad because you got caught. Tickets, driving. I drive
Yep.
with a sense of purpose. And out of the hundreds of thousands of cars on the vehicle, you found mine. You couldn't get the guy who just came past us doing 2 times the speed I was doing. You messing with me. But
Yeah.
truth be told, you're a violator. So when you get called on your violation,
Mhm.
if you don't have the mindset or the willingness to be corrected, then you're not going to go as far as you could go.
Right. Right. And nobody likes to be corrected.
No,
Nobody. I don't
no.
care who you are. I had to say that because I thought about it. It rose up in my spirit, if you will. I was like, true
Yeah.
story. But I was corrected in how I was correcting someone else.
Ooh.
And I was
Ooh.
like, but the person was right. They were 1-800 correct. You know, me, y'all know I'm a researcher. I'm gonna look it up and be like, wait a minute, hold up. Was this right? What this person told me was it correct? I knew it was correct, but I needed to verify it, validate it, And I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, I probably should have did that a little differently. So I had to apologize, but I didn't. The corrector does not like to be corrected.
Well, you know what? You know what's funny about that? You're right. But I think that.
And that's a good place for us to pause until next week. Join me and Caleb as we continue the discussion on being a present and engaged dad. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Positive Perspectives Podcast, where we dive into the issues that shape your world. Peace out.